Have you ever wondered why modern cars no longer use the classic throttle cable? Before, you pressed the gas pedal and felt the engine respond instantly. But now, in many modern vehicles, you press the accelerator and it almost feels like the car has to ask the computer for permission first. And here comes the important question. Is the electronic throttle body really better than the mechanical one, or did they just make cars more complicated and more expensive to repair? Stay until the end, because understanding this can help you diagnose power loss, jerking, unstable idle, throttle codes, and even problems where the vehicle goes into limp mode. First, let's start with the basics. The throttle body is the component responsible for controlling how much air enters the engine. Inside, it has a metal throttle plate that opens or closes the airflow going into the intake manifold. The more it opens, the more air enters, the computer injects more fuel, and the engine produces more power. In older systems, the throttle body was mechanical. The gas pedal was directly connected to the throttle body through a cable. When the driver pressed the pedal, the cable pulled the throttle plate and it opened physically. It was a simple, direct, and easy-to-understand system. The biggest advantage of a mechanical throttle body is its immediate response. When you pressed the pedal, the throttle plate opened right away. There was not as much electronics interpreting what you wanted to do. That is why many drivers feel that cars with a cable throttle have a more natural, more aggressive, and more connected feel with the engine. Another advantage is that they are easier to diagnose. If the pedal feels hard, you check the cable. If the engine stays accelerated, you inspect the throttle plate, the return spring, dirt buildup, vacuum leaks, or the TPS sensor. In many cases, with a cleaning and adjustment or a cable replacement, the problem was solved. They were also cheaper. They did not need an internal motor, dual sensors, or so much communication with the computer. For a mechanic, they were reliable systems and fairly easy to repair. But not everything was perfect. The mechanical throttle body had limitations. The computer could not directly control how much the throttle plate opens. If the driver pressed the pedal suddenly, the throttle plate opened suddenly, even if that was not always the best thing for fuel economy, emissions, or vehicle stability. And this is where the electronic throttle body comes in. In an electronic system, there is no longer a cable connecting the pedal to the throttle plate. The accelerator pedal has position sensors, usually 2 sensors for safety. These sensors send a signal to the engine computer. Then the ECU analyzes that signal and decides how much to open the throttle plate using an electric motor inside the throttle body. In simple words, you no longer control the throttle plate directly. You tell the computer how much you want to accelerate, and the computer decides how to do it. And even though that may sound concerning, it has many advantages. The first major advantage is emissions control. Modern vehicles have to meet stricter environmental regulations. With an electronic throttle body, the ECU can control airflow with much more precision. It can smooth out throttle opening, reduce emissions, improve the air-fuel mixture, and help the catalytic converter work more efficiently. The second advantage is fuel economy. Since the computer controls the throttle plate, it can avoid unnecessary openings. For example, even if you press the pedal a little aggressively, the ECU can open the throttle more progressively to prevent excessive fuel consumption or loss of efficiency. The third advantage is integration with other vehicle systems, and this is one of the most important reasons why the throttle cable disappeared. The electronic throttle body can work together with traction control, stability control, cruise control, modern automatic transmissions, drive modes, and safety systems. If the vehicle detects that the wheels are slipping, the computer can partially close the throttle plate even if you still have your foot on the gas pedal. That helps recover traction and stability. It also helps automatic transmissions. During gear shifts, the ECU can slightly reduce engine torque so the shifts feel more smoother and the transmission doesn't receive such harsh impacts. This was much harder to control with a mechanical throttle system. But now let's talk about the part that many mechanics know very well, the advantages. The electronic throttle body is more delicate. It has internal sensors, an electric motor, gears, position tracks, and constant communication with the ECU. If there is dirt buildup, low voltage, a bad ground, a pedal sensor failure, an internal failure, or poor calibration, the system can start acting crazy. A common failure is when the vehicle loses power and goes into limp mode. The engine doesn't accelerate properly and the throttle plate doesn't respond. Why does this happen? Because these systems work with redundant sensors. The computer compares the signal of the accelerator pedal with the signal of the throttle body. If one signal doesn't match the other, the ECU interprets it as a possible safety risk and limits acceleration. And here comes an important point. Many generic or cheap aftermarket throttle bodies can cause problems. They don't always have the same precision in the internal tracks, the motor, or the voltage range. So the vehicle may accept the part for a few minutes, but later it can set codes, stay accelerated, fail to relearn idle, or go into limp mode. They also require calibration or a relearn procedure. After cleaning or replacing an electronic throttle body, many vehicles need an idle relearn procedure using a scan tool, the key, ignition cycles, or by letting the engine idle under specific conditions. If this is not done correctly, the vehicle may remain unstable. So, which one is better? The answer depends on what you're looking for. If we're talking about simplicity, durability, low cost, and direct driving feel, the mechanical throttle body has the advantage. It's easier to repair, cheaper, and less electronically problematic. But if we're talking about efficiency, emissions, safety, traction control, stability control, automatic transmission operation, and modern technology, the electronic throttle body is superior. The problem is not that the electronic throttle body is bad. The problem is that when it fails, it can be harder to diagnose and more expensive to repair. It also needs a good battery, good grounds, stable voltages, correct sensors, and good quality parts. My diagnostic recommendation is this. If you have a vehicle with an electronic throttle body and it has acceleration problems, don't replace the part immediately. First, check the battery, alternator, grounds, connectors, 5-volt reference, pedal signals, throttle body signals, and stored trouble codes. Many times, the problem is not the throttle body itself, but a bad ground, low voltage, or a corroded connector. In conclusion, the mechanical throttle body is like a hammer, simple and direct. The electronic throttle body is like a computer, smarter, more precise, but also more delicate. If this video helped you understand the difference between mechanical and electronic throttle bodies, subscribe to the channel, because here we explain automotive failures in a clear, technical, and straight-to-the-point way. Give this video a like, share it with another mechanic or car owner, and comment below. Do you prefer a cable throttle or an electronic throttle body?